And you can reference this recording at a later time, and we'll share that with everyone as well. So let's get started. Good morning and welcome to everyone here. I'm Shanae Hernandez, coordinator and assistive technology instructor with Connection Point. Accompanying me is Marie Carmen Garcia, our O&M instructor, and she will be also sharing her personal perspective with Soundscape. But with me, we have team members Amos Miller and Alex Fianaka. And I also wanted to give them a warm welcome. And I'm delighted to present an incredible team who, without a doubt, are enhancing the way we get around. They have created an innovative audio-based technology to enable people to basically get around on their own and to build a richer awareness of their surroundings and to become more confident and comfortable as they do so. So without further ado, let us welcome Senior Research Engineer Alex and also Product Strategist Amos with Microsoft Soundscape.
Wow, what an introduction, Sinead. Thank you.
Thank you, Amos.
This is Amos Miller here, and it's really so wonderful to be here today. And thank you for inviting us. Prior to COVID, we would spend a lot of our time with folks out there in the real world, and COVID has made that hard. And by reaching out and getting us to come to your conversation here, this is just thank you for inviting us. Just to say, we will talk through. We are going to run through a presentation, but the presentation we'll talk through everything. So it doesn't matter for folks who can't see it. I can't see it either. By the way, and also we will share the presentation, and it's fully annotated and with alternative text and everything, so you'll have a reference to get back to after the presentation. So nothing to worry about on that front. Our goal is pretty straightforward. We'll share with you a little bit of background, take you through what Soundscape does, and I know that some of you will be experienced Soundscape users, some of you might have dabbled it before. We'll give you a bit of a sense of what it does, and also hopefully make it really easy for you to get started with it and make the most of the application. We also have a cool video to share, and it's fresh off the plate. Like, you guys are pretty much the first to see that video, so I'd love to get your feedback on it too. It's also audio described, so hopefully it will work for you. And then we'll of course leave plenty of time for discussion. And if, like I said, if any of you are experienced Soundscape users, we'd like to hear from you. Okay, and let's make it a lively conversation. I'm Amos Miller from Microsoft Research. I'm here with Alex Fianaka, who's one of our engineers on the team. And this is a great time for retribution. No retribution, but discussion. Like, we've got the team here to hear from you and to talk about anything and everything you want to discuss. And of course,
my water bottle out there.
And of course, Emily Green here is with us. She's my visual assistant, or formerly, but she really helps out with a lot of our user engagement, and she'll be on the chat responding to questions. In terms of our quest, we started this work way back about 7 or 8 years ago in a collaboration with Guide Dogs in the UK, really exploring how we can make a difference to the lives of people who are blind or partially sighted with technology in a way that makes a material difference to the experience when we're out and about. We continue to work with O&M instructors along the work, and we'll refer to that later on. And that's kind of the background to the project. The product has been out now for about 3 years. But just to level set, what is Soundscape? The way we think about Soundscape is it's a technology that enables you to enhance your awareness of your surrounding using a cool capability called spatial audio. This is audio that if you wear stereo headsets, you can hear the sounds in 3D sort of laid out around you. So for example, so you'll have the app running on your phone. You don't have to use headsets, and Alex will go into that in a lot more detail. But if you do use headsets, you'll hear callouts in 3D space around you. So you walk down the street. If Starbucks comes up on your right, you'll hear the word Starbucks. But instead of trying to think where that is, you will hear that word over in front of you and to the right. So it sounds like it's coming from the direction where Starbucks actually is. So it's really easy to kind of build that mental map of a space. You'll hear everything that you pass by. You can also navigate with Soundscape, and Alex will explain how you navigate with Soundscape using what we call an audio beacon, which is sounds like a bell that, let's say you walk to a bus stop, it's like a virtual bell that you'd put on the bus stop. You can hear that bell on the bus stop and just walk towards it. That's how you navigate with Soundscape. And another cool feature that I think is one of a kind, really, and something that is really fun is what we call Soundscape Street Preview. That enables you to that basically allows you to visit a place without going there. So from your home, you can have a virtual experience of, say, downtown or the neighborhood of your friend or your own neighborhood, and you can walk around that environment with Soundscape from the comfort of your home. And it's all in audio. And sorry for the noise in the background. That's my dog barking.
It's not Soundscape.
Can you hear it?
Yes, I heard him.
Hopefully she will stop in just a moment. It's my wife arriving and she gets all excited. So that's preview, and again, I won't go into detail now, but it's a very cool feature to explore. Soundscape is rapidly becoming the primary go-to app in the community. And I think part of the reason that, on the one hand, it's really powerful, but it's also really, really easy to use. And I hope that as Alex walks you through it, you'll see how easy it is to use. It's available for free on the App Store. And before I hand off to Alex to take you through it, I just wanted to say again that we really do enjoy spending time in these kind of settings with you guys. You know, because when you build a technology to make a difference to people's lives, a lot of the innovation happens in these kind of settings. When we interact and find out how you use things and how life, your experience when you're out and about. So let's have a lively conversation. And let me stop here and hand over to Alex.
Great, thanks, Amos. Yeah, so as Amos said, I'm going to walk us through how Soundscape works, how to get started with it, and introduce you to some of the features. So the first thing to get started with Soundscape is you just need to go to the iOS App Store and download it. It's currently only on iOS. It's completely free, and you don't have to create an account or do anything, really. You just download it and you can immediately get going with it. We also support 8 languages currently, and that's rapidly expanding to more languages. The first thing you'll want to think about once you've downloaded Soundscape is how you want to listen to Soundscape. As the name kind of entails, the app is all about an audio experience. So choosing how you want to listen to it is really important. If you don't want to use headphones, that's totally okay. Soundscape works even if you're just using the speaker on the iPhone itself. But you really get the best experience out of Soundscape when you use stereo headphones. So we often recommend headphones that don't block your ears. And the reason why is that, as you all know, when you're out and about, it's really important to be able to hear your environment, right? You want to be able to hear the cars on the streets. You want to be able to hear things that are coming up in front of you. So we like headphones that don't block the ears. And some really good options in this space are the Bose frames, which are sunglasses that have speakers in the actual frames of the glasses. So the speakers sit up above your ear and kind of direct audio down, and so they don't block your ears for environmental audio. Another option would be the bone conduction headphones from Shocks. These sit in front of your ears, kind of on your temples, and they play the music there, so they're the sound there, so they also don't block environmental audio. A third option would be the Apple Airpods Pro, which do sit in your ears, but they have what they call a transparency mode. And this allows outside sounds to be amplified through the headphones, so you still hear the sounds around you. They're not quite as good as headphones that, like the Bose frames or the AfterShokz, that sit outside of your ears, but they are a lot better than just your normal headphone that blocks your ears. The benefit of choosing either the AirPods Pro or the Bose frames is they also support a feature we call head tracking. This tells Soundscape where you're looking, and that allows us to make the spatial audio even better. So those are really the top two options. So as you heard from Amos, Soundscape is all about navigating and getting out in the real world and using your mobility skills. And the primary tool that we provide you to put in your mobility toolbox is called the audio beacon. You can think of this, as Amos said, as kind of like a speaker placed on a real world location. You hear audio coming from that location, and that helps you to get to it. So the example I have on the slide deck here is for a cafe down the street from my house called Cafe en Claire. If I wanted to go there, I would search in Soundscape for the cafe, and then I would hit the button that's called Start Audio Beacon. That will start playing audio coming from where Cafe en Claire is. So if it were, you know, down the street to my right, I would hear it off to my right. And then if I turn to face the direction towards it, it would be coming from in front of me now. I'd hear it in front of me. So Soundscape keeps track of where you're looking or where the direction you're moving in, and it updates the sounds around you so they sound like they're coming from the real world. With the audio beacon, it will also occasionally tell you how far away you are. So you'll get these announcements where you'll hear kind of like a ping, and then it will say beacon 155 feet or 150 meters, whatever unit you may be using, whatever you feel more comfortable with. So with that under our belt, those are some of the basics of Soundscape. Let's talk about what it would be like to go on your first walk. And feel free, I know we've mentioned it already, but feel free to drop questions into the chat, and you know, Emily or Shanae or Marie Carmen can interrupt me along the way, and I'll try to answer them as I go. So let's talk about what it'd be like to go on your first walk. We like to start with the kind of the easiest bits of Soundscape to get you familiar with what it sounds like. So the first thing you should do is go outside, put on the headphones that you've chosen, or no headphones if you've chosen not to use headphones. Open the app, and then at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a set of buttons. On the far left is one called My Location. If you tap that, Soundscape will quickly give you some information about where you currently are. So this is useful for finding your location, as it obviously is titled. This will tell you things like the street you're on, if you're walking along a street. It can tell you if you're, for instance, in a park, which park you're in, or if you're in a building, it can tell you what building you're in. It tries its best to give you contextual information about your current location. Beyond, or just moving past that, to the right of that button in the middle of the screen are two buttons called Around Me and Ahead of Me. When you tap either of these, they'll tell you about places like businesses that are around you, or if you're pointing your phone ahead of you. So you could imagine pointing your phone down a street and hitting the Ahead of Me button, and Soundscape will tell you about the various businesses that are ahead of you down the street. So these are useful for kind of querying your environment to learn a little bit about your surroundings. I see we have a question.
Yes,
Linda?
go ahead, Linda.
I wanted to ask, my husband's vision is almost totally gone to the point where he can't see a screen. So he would not be able to hit the buttons. He wouldn't be able to see the buttons to hit them. So would this even be beneficial to him?
Very much so, yes. So Soundscape is fully accessible through iOS's screen reader, which is called VoiceOver. So VoiceOver doesn't require any vision at all to use. It's purely an audio-based experience. And Soundscape is designed from the ground up to be a very good VoiceOver experience. None of this requires any vision whatsoever. You'll see screenshots throughout this entire talk of what Soundscape looks like, but it also works really well with the screen reader.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Just one more question and I'll let you carry on. I'm sorry for interrupting. I see where it says it's only available on iOS app. If we have Apple and we only have the App Store, is it available through that or not? Or do I have to download something?
So I think you said you only have an Apple device, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So it's available through the Apple App Store. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so I'm going to move forward here. So once you've tried out those buttons on the bottom of the screen, the next thing we suggest you do is lock your phone, put it in your pocket. You don't have to hold it for this next part. Just go for a walk. Walk somewhere that you know, maybe to a nearby post office, or post box, I mean, or a cafe, something like this. And listen to what you hear. You'll notice that Soundscape will keep talking to you even though you've locked your phone and put it in your pocket. And what you're going to hear is it'll tell you about the places you're passing. So let's say that a Starbucks is coming up ahead of me and off to the right side. As I get close to it, Soundscape will actually tell you Starbucks, and it will sound like it's coming from where Starbucks is. And so you'll keep hearing these call outs for things as you approach them. We call these automatic call outs. You'll notice as you're going that there's probably some places that are more important to you than others, right? Like the bus stop outside my house is particularly important to me because I use it to get to work. And we all have places like this, maybe specific addresses or particular places that you use frequently. For these kinds of places, we have what we call markers in Soundscape. This allows you to save locations that are important and quickly get to them in the future. This could be on addresses, just generic locations, a particular place where you want to drop a pin, or on existing points of interest like businesses. And the way you do this is you would search for whatever the place is in Soundscape, and then you would choose the button that says Save as Marker. That would allow you to then change the name of it if you want to. So maybe give it the place a more useful name than the default one. You could add annotations, which are like simple notes that Soundscape will tell you about when you get to it. So I like to think of this as being great for mobility reminders. Like if you're walking down the sidewalk and maybe there's a part of the sidewalk that's broken that you've tripped over before, maybe you place a marker before you get to it and you add an annotation to watch out for the broken sidewalk. So that way, as you're approaching it, you get a reminder each time. And then once you've saved this marker, you can easily get back to it in the future. So when you open Soundscape, right on that home screen, there's a button called Markers and Routes. And when you tap that, you'll get the list of all of your markers. That makes it easy to quickly set audio beacons in the future.
So helpful.
That's what we're shooting for. We try to make this as simple as possible. And then the last big thing we're going to talk about today is how you might use Soundscape in regards to your orientation and mobility. So Soundscape allows you to create routes, and routes are just collections of your markers. Once you've made markers, you can put them together into a route. And what will happen is when you start the route experience in Soundscape, it will place an audio beacon on the first marker in your route. And then when you get to that location, it will automatically move the audio beacon to the next marker. So you can think of this as a series of audio beacons that go along a predefined route that you created. So this is really useful for doing things like working together with an orientation and mobility expert to create your a particular route you're learning, and then having the route in Soundscape so you can go practice it yourself later. Or doing things like just annotating a common route that you're learning after maybe you move to a new apartment and you want to learn that route to a grocery store. You could make that route yourself and then have it to practice in Soundscape. Because we are trying to support our colleagues in orientation and mobility, we've made it really easy to share routes. There's a share button right on the route details view. And that allows you to share routes with your friends, with your family members, or even to collaborate on creating a route with an orientation and mobility instructor. So to explain a little bit more about how you might use routes and markers, we're going to show a video now. The screen's going to go black here for a second, and I'm just going to wait for a minute so that the video can buffer it. Sometimes it takes a little while for it to load on everyone's screens. I know that sometimes when we play videos through Teams, it doesn't work great for everybody. So don't worry if that happens to you, if the video is not playing. We're going to share a link after the talk today, and the link will take you to the same video on YouTube, so you can watch it there. We'll also share out the whole PowerPoint deck as well. So here we go. I'm going to play this video, and then when it's done, we can discuss it a little bit.
Yep, and please hold questions unless in the chat till after the video, but I will be looking at that chat if you have anything while you're watching.
Great, thank you, Emily.
It's not playing yet. You're not missing anything. Alex, is it playing?
It is.
The audio is not coming through.
Was the audio not playing for anyone else?
I could hear it.
I can hear it.
I can hear it just fine.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it going here then. For those of you, if it's not working for you, like I said, we'll send out a link. It's got about 5 more minutes. We'll send out a link afterwards. You can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, well, it is fine.
Can I make a decision about that?
Yes. That's loud.
Did
The
that
video
stop
just
for-
ended on my end, Alex.
Yeah, it looks like, okay. Sorry, technical difficulties. Let's go. Here we go. Right back to here. Okay, it's gonna start playing again.
Mhm.
No.
Return. Return. New line.
Great. Okay, so I know that there were a little bit of technical difficulties there. I feel like there always are when you try to share a video through PowerPoint, through Teams. It can be a little bit much. Like I said, we'll share the link as soon as we're done here to the full video, and we encourage you to go back and listen to it one more time if you'd like to get the full experience there. So the last point I'm going to make before we go to an open discussion kind of Q&A session is that Soundscape also lets you to configure your experience a lot. So let's say you don't like that the text-to-speech voice you just heard from Soundscape that Amos has configured on his phone. Soundscape lets you choose any voice supported by iOS, with the exception of just a few that aren't compatible. You can even go into iOS's accessibility settings and download additional better voices that are current or that are available. We also let you choose different types of audio. So you heard in that video, hopefully, that there was kind of a rhythmic, like tinging sort of beacon sound. If that doesn't feel comfortable to your ears, because we know everyone has different listening preferences, you can come into the settings in Soundscape and choose a different style of audio. We have a whole bunch of different options, from versions that have a lot of kind of musical audio for the beacon to versions that have just a little bit of occasional audio with a lot of silence. So you can choose whatever works best for you for your type of hearing. And then lastly, you can also configure the volume of the beacon, the voice, and the sound effects independently. So if you need the speech to be a little bit louder, but all the other audio to be a little bit quieter, you can totally do that. So Soundscape has a lot of configurability, and that will let you make it custom to your type of hearing. With that, I think we are going to turn off the presentation here and open it up to questions.
Awesome. Go ahead, Tony.
Good morning. Great presentation. Thank you very much. I had a couple of questions. If you're walking by and there is a bus stop, will it announce it, or do you have to ask it to look for a bus stop, or is that one of the things that it will tell you?
Yeah, it'll automatically tell you about bus stops as you walk past them. It's a little bit dependent on the specific city you're in, because we use an open data source for all of our map data, and some places label their bus stops differently. So we find that in most locations in the US, the bus stop names that Soundscape will call out will be relevant in some way, but sometimes they'll just call out and say bus stop 451267, right? Like whatever the city's labeled it. And in that case, you might want to add a marker on that particular bus stop if it's an important one to you, and then you can give it a more useful name, like bus stop to work.
I would just add to the bus stop comment. that Soundscape bus stops are one of the things that Soundscape will also call out when you are in a bus or in a vehicle, so you know which bus stops are coming up, and that's sometimes helpful as you kind of in a vehicle as well. Sorry, Tony, go ahead.
Great. I'm thinking of, does this work indoors? I'm thinking if I'm going to a conference at a new hotel, will it get me from my room to the elevator and then back to the front desk or to the restaurant at the hotel? Will it work indoors?
Soundscape works primarily outdoors currently, so it's a GPS app, and GPS doesn't work indoors. Particularly in places where there's lots of concrete and steel, GPS just can't make it through those structures. But we have found in some large open buildings that it will work reasonably well if it's big enough. Like in airports, which have lots of windows, for instance, Soundscape works relatively well. But in hotels where it's a really big building with lots of concrete, it doesn't work particularly well. It's really designed for outside use.
Okay.
And one more question. How much battery does it use? I use my phone for absolutely everything as soon as I get out. Is it a big drainer of battery? Will it be like at noon, will my battery be 10% left if I'm using it constantly?
So we've compared it to a number of different GPS apps, and it's really comparable to like doing navigation in Google Maps or in Apple Maps. So it's more, it will use more battery than if you didn't have it running all the time, right? But it's not going to be any worse than any other navigation app you would use. So you might not, constantly run it throughout the day, but run it when you are going from place to place, for instance.
We need it.
Yep. And there is you can put it to sleep so it stops draining, so it stops the GPS. You can even put it to sleep and ask it to wake up automatically when you leave. So if you when you arrive somewhere, you put it to sleep, you put it to wake up automatically, and then when you go home or leave the place that you're at, it will start again.
Yeah.
Question.
Super exciting app. Thank you very much for such a great presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Emily, did you happen to see who is next?
There's a, how do you?
I've been monitoring the chat, but it looks like Wendy was next.
Great.
In line. Teams has now added a placement of hand raises, so
great.
Yay, Teams.
Yeah, my question is when it comes to the bus stops, does it give the bus stop number? I mean, the bus number like 492 or 488, or can you set that as a beacon?
So it doesn't currently give bus numbers at the bus stops. You might use like your local transit app to figure out what the bus numbers are, and that's something you could add into either the name or an annotation on a marker on that bus stop if you wanted.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it looks like Mickey is our next question.
Hello.
Hi there.
This is just a comment. I have used Soundscape before, limitedly, and the way that I used it was because using ride-share services like Uber and Lyft, I'm really uncomfortable with getting in strangers' cars, and so I use it to call out places so that I know I'm going the right direction and that this person's not taking me somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. One way you can use it is when you get in a rideshare, you could set a beacon on the place you're going to, and then you'll get call outs as the car is driving, and you'll hear if the distance is decreasing, so you know you're getting closer and closer to your destination.
And of course,
Yes.
You'll hear the roads and intersections that you're at and key landmarks that you pass by. We don't call everything, so Soundscape is designed not to be too chatty when you're in a vehicle, but definitely to give you the key landmarks, the roads that you're on, so that you get a good sense of where you are and that you're heading in the right direction.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's a really good point.
Feel more comfortable.
Great.
It's great
I'm
to
glad
hear.
to hear
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah. One point I didn't really discuss in the presentation today is that Soundscape knows about the roads around you. So when you're walking, as you approach intersections, it will tell you about the intersection, and it won't just say that you're coming up to an intersection. It'll actually tell you the roads and the directions they go in. So you can hear the spatial layout of that intersection as you approach it. An example would be, outside of my house here, I live on the corner of Harrison Street and 9th Avenue. So if I walk up to that intersection, I'll hear Soundscape will tell me that I'm approaching an intersection and that Harrison Street goes left, 9th Avenue goes ahead, Harrison Street goes right. And I hear that in spatial audio, so I immediately know what that intersection looks like. You get those sorts of callouts as you're walking, or when you're in a car, you hear the roads you're turning on.
All right, and from the chat, real quick, we have from Alicia, is there a way to organize or filter markers? That list can become very long, which makes it time consuming to make routes.
Currently, the list of markers can only be reordered by their name or by their distance. If you have a lot of markers and you're trying to make a route, the easiest way to do that is to actually, when you start the route creation process, you can create markers during that. And so it makes it real easy to create a marker and immediately add it to the route.
I would also like to add, the fact that your list of markers gets long is wonderful to hear, because that means that they are useful, and that's good feedback for us. And we've heard it before, of finding ways to organize the route, the markers in groups and so on. When you create a route, because they are organized by distance, you will typically find all the markers relevant to your route in the same sort of area. So you just tap them in that same area because they're organized by distance. But that's a great piece of feedback.
You can also search by name when you're adding them to a route as well. So if you have one it's hard, you're having trouble finding, just search by name and it will pop up.
And the quick follow-up from Alicia on this route information is, are we able to reverse a route?
Not yet.
Not yet, but got that as a requirement. So again, we often with features, we'll put it out and see how people are using it and if it's useful and what feedback we get, and they quickly look to respond to that. And that's definitely something that's come up a lot since it's only been out for a couple of months. So great to hear.
Exactly.
Sorry, Alex.
All right.
Oh, no.
And next we've got Abdo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Excellent.
Hey, thank you for the presentation. I appreciate that. I have a couple of questions. The first one, if I'm walking down streets and there is a small turn to the right and there is no marker in that, like it's not a service road or anything, it's just an end of a parking lot. If I make a marker in that place, how accurate Soundscape can tell me when I specifically get into that point?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we call out markers when you are within 20 meters of them. And the reason it's not more accurate than that, or not closer than that, is because GPS inaccuracies can vary depending on a lot of conditions. And so we try to give you enough warning that even if GPS is really bad, it's still going to be ahead of when you get to the place. So you should think of the marker as not like, it's not going to tell you the exact place when you're right on it that you need to turn there, but instead it's a warning for you so that you can then use your other mobility skills to be aware that now you're coming up to it. So now you should use your other mobility skills to find where that turn is.
Okay. The second question, you said that you are using an open source map for the Soundscape. What's that? Like you're using OpenMap or
OpenStreetMap? Yeah.
OpenStreetMaps. Okay. Another question is, well, I can't remember it right now, interesting, but thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
And just a comment on OpenStreetMaps. It is a crowdsourced mapping system, which means people can update it. What's great is we've had some users in the past tell us that they've gotten their communities together to help enrich those maps. We know sometimes, especially with COVID, businesses have gone under, new businesses have replaced. Having your community get together and keep those maps up to date will give you such an enriched experience with Soundscape that we highly recommend if you have any sort of outlet to talk to people in your community, that it's great for everyone to keep those maps up to date.
Yes. I just remember one question. You mentioned that what headphones is best? Like you mentioned 2 examples. Is that available in the presentation, or you can just?
It is available in the presentation. Yes. The ones we recommended were the Bose frames, and if you want head tracking specifically, you have to get the Alto or Rondo versions. That's in the presentation. The Shocks headphones, it's a brand, and they make a bunch of different versions of bone conduction headphones. They're all great. Or the Apple Airpods Pro.
Okay.
Yeah, but that'll all be in our presentation when we send out the link to it later.
Yeah,
Okay.
but any
If
headphones, I just want to say any
Yeah,
headphones are good, especially ones that are open ear. So
Yep.
Bose have other open ear options. There's a bunch of sports type headsets that are kind of used for people who go running, and they kind of hang off at a bit of a distance to the ear. So anything that you feel comfortable with that doesn't block your hearing. But again, to reinforce the point, it will work without headsets as well. You just don't get the spatial audio.
Exactly. And the feature, there's no feature for Soundscape to tell the direction, like if I'm going south or north. There's no feature like this until now.
South or north, it will tell you. Yes. It will tell you which direction you're facing.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. From the chat, before we get back to the hands raised, from Elena, does the app alert you of temporary work in progress situations?
Like construction. So it can, if that information is added into OpenStreetMap. So some cities are really good about documenting active construction sites in OpenStreetMap. And Soundscape downloads updates every single week. So any new information will filter into the app and you'll hear about it. The challenge though is that sometimes that construction is like it happens on a single day and then it's done. And so that sort of information doesn't often make it into the map, and so it might not be there for you.
And just as a general reminder, Soundscape is in addition to the mobility skills you already have.
Yep.
You have your dog, your white cane, your sighted guide. Those will always be your first line of defense, and Soundscape is just there to enrich what's around you.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so I've got James, I've got your hand raised.
By the way, Soundscape works great on open college campuses. It tells you the different buildings and such. I've worked extensively in them. It doesn't work indoors, but outdoors. With your markers, if you were to switch to a different iOS device, if you had many, I don't know, iPhones or stuff, where is it saved? And maybe is there a way to save it on perhaps iCloud so that it can go with you, just in case you work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, great question. So right now, every time you create a marker, we automatically save that into iCloud. And so if you move to a new phone and you log in with the same Apple ID, and then you start Soundscape, it will sync and it will pull all of those markers you created on your previous phone with that same Apple ID onto your new phone. So it automatically backs up. If you're moving to a phone that doesn't have, you're using a different Apple ID, or you're just trying to maybe share with a friend, you can choose to share markers by going to the markers list, clicking on the marker and clicking the share button. So that doesn't allow you to share everything at once, but you can share them one at a time, or you can share a route, which would be a set of them. But yeah, normally it just backs up everything to iCloud. If you use the same Apple ID, it'll download from there. And that's all automatic.
Excellent. All right. Next, we have Margaret. Margaret, I'm going to manually unmute you just in case.
Oh, I got it.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Yeah, this took me a little while. Where can we get more training?
So we have content in the app under, if you go to the menu and then you choose help and tutorials, we have a bunch of different content like articles that describe how various features work, how you might use them, when you might use them. We also have on our website, which there's a link in the PowerPoint we'll send out today. We have a number of articles there that describe how you can use Soundscape. And these come from a lot of different perspectives. Like we have some written from orientation and mobility instructors about how they've used Soundscape or how they think about using it with their clients, all the way down to kind of detailed descriptions of how you use certain features. So a bunch of that information is available on our website.
And that's coming on the email?
Yeah, we'll send that out when we send the link to all of our content from today as well.
You can also get to those articles from within the app if you like. If you are happy reading articles on the phone, which some people are, some people aren't. But if you are, then there is a menu item that with links to the blog where all these articles are at. So you can just sort of take your time and go through them, read them. And of course, goes without mentioning, but soundscape@microsoft.com is our email. And if you have any questions, you can always drop us a line, and we review everything that comes in.
Okay.
And of course, your R&M, I don't know if there's any R&M instructors on this call right now. Yesterday, we actually presented to the International Orientation Mobility conference. We had around over 300 orientation mobility instructors. So hopefully by now they're starting to really get their head around how Soundscape works, and it's definitely worth reaching out to your O&M instructors.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we've got Tony next, and then I believe we do have an instructor after that. We'll have a little chat with Marie Carmen. So Tony, take it away. It's your thing.
One question about the O&M. On the video, the O&M instructor actually fiddled around with something in the map. Is that something that, is his name Amos? If Amos would have been able to do that, can I fool around with making things a little clear?
You're very astute, Tony. That's a very short detail in the app, in the video, but important. You are right that the marker screen allows a sighted person to nudge the marker and move it a little bit. And we are actually currently working. Melanie, who was on the video, is another engineer on our team, and we are actually currently working to enable you to do that without sight. So with voiceover, basically nudge a marker in a certain direction. But that I can't say when that will come out, because we like to ship things when they work really well. But that's a very astute. Well done for noticing that.
Cool. Great. Yeah. Can't wait to do that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, and Marie Carmen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mary Carmen Garcia, and I am one of the orientation and mobility specialists for the Anaheim Center. I just kind of wanted to go back and just speak a little bit in regards to training. We do have training on the Soundscape app. Unfortunately, currently, Braille Institute, we're not seeing students in person just yet, but we do hope that in the future we're able to work with all you guys, utilizing the Soundscape app in person. So right now what we're currently doing is we're working remotely. That's either, through the computer or on the phone, whatever works best for, the student. And we're introducing Soundscape. We're helping them download the app, obviously virtually or over the phone. We're getting oriented to that application. We're talking about where we could utilize it, how we create routes, and points of interest and all that good stuff. So we aren't doing it in person, and we're only doing it virtually or over the phone. But it is a way of just getting a good foundation of Soundscape. And then eventually, when we do go back to in-person sessions, we're able to actually utilize it together out in the community. So we don't have too much information in regards to when we're able to go back to in-person orientation and mobility sessions, but we hope that that's going to happen sooner rather than later. And it's just important to have that connection with the O&M specialist if it's something that you're interested in doing with them. They're able to help you out.
Awesome. Thank you, Marie Carmen. This is Shanae from Connection Point, and I wanted to touch base with the application one-on-one training. So if any of you here who are interested in downloading the application on your iPhone, we can definitely assist you with one-on-one training. So before you begin your orientation and mobility session with any mobility instructor across all different centers, we can definitely walk you through that application so that you familiarize yourself using voiceover gestures while using the Soundscape app. So it's a good thing to get started early on. That way you can have an advantage while using Soundscape and also incorporating a session with your instructor or even personally with Marie Carmen. So well, hopefully we can definitely assist everyone here who are interested in downloading the application, and of course get in touch with anybody from the Microsoft team to follow up with any technical questions. So, but yeah.
And also, if there were any questions we were not able to get to today, if maybe you weren't able to utilize the chat or had some sort of technical difficulties, please do feel free to email us at any time with any questions. Our feedback line is soundscape@microsoft.com, and we're ready and excited to hear what all of you think.
We have a meeting every single week on our team to go through every single piece of feedback we got, to respond to all of them, and to kind of triage and figure out how we can address questions or points of feedback. So we take it really, really seriously. So yeah, feel free to reach out.
What a great presentation.
Thank you so much, everybody. Is there any other questions before? I'm going to double check. Okay. All right. So thank you, everyone, for participating and for joining and asking questions. Thank you to Microsoft Soundscape team, Alex, Amos, and Emily. Thank you so much. Just wanted to make sure, I thank everybody for your support and for those of you who asked questions. But yes, that concludes our presentation. So thank you.
Sorry, quick question before you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, before you sign up, this is Tracy. I didn't realize I had been muted on your end. I'm the one that's on the phone. I wasn't on Microsoft Teams. Did you give the link verbally for us to get the YouTube, to get the presentation? Because calling in from the phone, I wasn't able to listen to that 5-minute presentation.
We're going to send out an email with the YouTube
Oh,
link.
fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, so to everybody that was in the call today, I believe Shanae is going to send out an email, a wrap-up email after this, and we'll make sure that the YouTube link is included, and our feedback email and our website.
Super, and then I can send my questions in the email because I didn't realize I had been muted on your end, so I wasn't able to get any questions in.
Sorry about that.
So I can do that too.
If you do have any questions, if you do have any questions, you can feel free to hang around. I'm happy to hang around for a couple more minutes to answer any questions you have.
Oh, that would be awesome. I do have a couple of questions for you. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Awesome.
Can I go ahead and ask you right now?
Yeah, go for it. If anyone else needs to drop off, feel free to. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll hang around and answer these questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, this is Tracy, and I'm in Newport Beach. I'm in Orange County. The couple of questions. I do use the Bose glasses, but I have the Tempo, which I think came out after the Alto and Rondo. Do they also have the spatial orientation, those glasses? Do you know?
Unfortunately, Bose only turned on the head tracking feature for Alto and Rondo. They didn't turn it on for other versions. The Tempo aren't supported, but for head tracking only. They'll still work really well without head tracking, right? Soundscape head tracking is kind of an additional feature that makes the spatial audio even better, but it's not required by any means. You don't have to have it for it to work.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to start it with these, and then I'd be really interested to see how that works. I know that I've heard from other GPS apps that tracking when you're in, let's say, for example, a shopping center, whether it's, this would be outdoor, not indoor, But for example, my local shopping center, which has a Starbucks, has other, banks, other retail establishments, I believe they all do have physical addresses. So my understanding is that would be able to call out those. But if it was something where it was, let's say it all had one address and they were, suite, they called it C1, C2, et cetera. Are you able to do markers for that kind of addressing system?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely can create markers anywhere you want. So markers don't just have to be on existing things in the map. On the home screen in Soundscape, there's a button called Current Location. And if you click that, it'll give you the option to create a marker where you're currently standing. So you can make them anywhere you want.
Okay.
Though most places like shopping malls are updated quite well so that it will call out each business appropriately.
Okay. And if I want to, right now I'm just using my cane. I was using things like Ira, but they can get pretty costly, and I'm not using that as much, although I may go back to it again to have a sighted guide. But I really want to be able to navigate on my own just with my cane skills up to my center. So if I'm using markers, for example, I would create a route. I'm guessing I would go in here, I would create a route. Let's say it's, Tracy, home to store, whatever I want to call that route. And I would place my markers. And it's like you said, it's going to give not detailed exact location, but it's going to let me know when I'm approaching something. But that would be helpful for creating my own walking route with using my cane. Yep. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's
so you'd
great.
still use all your normal mobility skills
as soon as you talked about the markers. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd still use your normal mobility skills to walk the route, right? Like you're still going to use your cane to follow it to like shoreline along paths, to find curb cuts, all the normal things you would do. But Soundscape, with if you set out markers along the way, you'll also have that audio beacon that's kind of like a compass, so you know you're heading in the right direction. And you'll get warnings like when you get to each marker you set out, and then it will move to the next one. So it's just an additional tool for you to wayfind along the way.
So silly question, again, using what you're talking about, let's say, for example, I am navigating a route where I'm going through a community, walking through a park area where I have to navigate down, different sidewalks, paths within that park. If I, for example, had not a fountain, but let's say I had a large garden landscape that I know is one of would be a marker for where I'm going to be making a turn to my right to go to an exit gate, for example. It's going to let me know when I'm approaching that garden landscape. Once I know I'm near that and I'm using my cane and I go past it and I've made my right, is that at the point, once you've gone past that marker, that it now goes on to the next marker? You have to actually go past that by some distance before it announces the next marker? Okay.
No,
that's all
with the route, as soon as you arrive at the first one and it'll do a call out telling you you're approaching the first one, it'll just immediately move to the next. So you've approached it, you're going to find your way around that corner, but it will have already started the audio beacon for the next place you're trying to go to.
And I apologize, probably all this was answered with the presentation, but being on the phone, I wasn't able to hear anything, so I was just kind of sitting there. No worries. So I was actually playing around with the app while you guys were doing the presentation.
Oh, awesome.
So
great.
This is a fantastic. Well, thank you.
I just wanted to add for you, just to add, the roots are a great feature to stitch those markers together. But like the example with the example you gave with the park, you don't have to use a route. You can have those markers and you could place your beacon at the gate, and as you walk along the path and you'll hear garden, you'll know that that's the place that you need to turn right.
Okay, by what I named. So for example, that's a route that I do all the time. So I would just set the markers and not have to assign a route for that.
You can exactly. The route. What the route allows you to do is to have the beacon hop from one marker to the next. And that's really useful. But what I'm saying is it's not the only way to do it. You can also just have your markers and just place the beacon on the destination or a particular waypoint along the way, and you'll still hear those markers. The beacon is just not going to stop at them because you didn't. That's the
great. No, that's perfect, because there are multiple ways that I can get to that particular destination going through the park. So that would make sense if I decide to go to the left. Yeah, fantastic.
That is a critical point. That's really like power users of Soundscape. When you get to that point, that's how you use it, right? You already know your
Exactly.
routes at that point, right? You would create routes when you're learning routes initially. That's when they're most useful, we think. But if you already know the route and you know you have different options for how to get around that park to the final destination, maybe you just set a beacon at the very end. But you're then going to use all your normal mobility skills, all of the knowledge you've built up by practicing those routes to choose how you want to get there. And that's the key.
Exactly.
Soundscape's a tool that you can use for information about, finding your way to the end, but you get to choose how you want to do it, right? It's not turn-by-turn directions. It doesn't tell you what you have to do. You don't have to have a route. It's just about giving you tools to make it so it's easier for you to get to the final destination or make sure you're on the right track while you use your cane or your dog or whatever.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I'm really excited to start using this app. So I'm really thrilled with it. Thank you so much for all the great information. I'm sure I'll once I get the email and I am able to listen to the presentation, I'll probably have more questions. But those were my key questions. And then, will there be any time? I'm guessing this is an automatic no. But for example, indoors, like indoor shopping centers, there's no way to set markers indoors for yourself. But or it's all. Can I create my own markers, or it wouldn't work because GPS just isn't accessible in there at all?
You can create them indoors, but the GPS signal is going to be really bad. So it's hard to know where they've actually been placed, and it's hard to get a good experience indoors because of that.
Okay.
So it really works best outside right now.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. I'm thrilled. I'm really excited about this.
Hello? If you do set a marker indoors, though, you can get an update of how far away it is. If it's not going to take you exactly to it, so you can get kind of a roundabout, but it is definitely a workaround, not an exact.
Potentially, though. It's not, I don't want to make any promises about indoors. It does not work well indoors, so we don't want to, guarantee that it will.
Can you hear me now?
No, that's great.
I think, Sinead, we probably need to call it here at this point.
Yes, we're going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and stop recording, but then we'll be sharing this information in an email, sharing all the resources with everyone. But thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording at this time.
Everybody hear me?
Thanks, everyone.
Can anybody